Okay, class. So today we're going to go over how to properly read a political cartoon. So the student learning objective. So at the conclusion of this presentation, the viewer should be able to properly interpret and read a political cartoon. All right, so materials we're going to need. We will need one political cartoon, your eyeballs, knowledge of current events and history. So we should know that as we are a history class, we'll be looking at a lot of political cartoons and some basic common sense. Anyone can pretty much read and interpret a political cartoon. So step one, you have to find yourself a political cartoon. So here we have a political cartoon. This one has John F. Kennedy and Nikita Khrushchev. And this is around the period, if you can tell, we went over this in class. This is around the period of the Cold War. And so that's what this political cartoon is representing. We'll get more into details about what everything means as we go on. So step two, look for symbols. So you have to look for symbols that stand for something bigger and think about what the cartoonist might have intended for each symbol. So here, we're going to refer to the bomb. And the bomb, you can see, is being used as a bench by both men, and both men have a button to trigger off the other one's bomb. And you can see that their fingers are both hovering over the detonator for each bomb. So we're seeing the bombs represented as the seats. So step two is exaggeration. So as it says, sometimes cartoonists will exaggerate certain physical characteristics from people or things to get their point across. So when you're looking at these cartoons, look for things that are a little bit more emphasized, bigger, smaller, body parts. It doesn't just have to be on a person, it could be a certain object as well. And so here we can see that Mr. Khrushchev here is sweating excessively. And so we can kind of use that as an indicator of how tense this was for him. And you can see John F. Kennedy sweating as well, but you mostly see Khrushchev sweating excessively. And that could be a hint for something later on that the cartoonist is trying to get at, but we'll get to that as we get along. So step four, labeling. So oftentimes cartoonists will label objects to clearly identify an object. So when you're looking at a political cartoon, make sure you look at the whole thing and you look for signs and little messages that maybe might not stand out at the beginning when you first see them. So here we see the little H on the bombs for the benches that both men are sitting on. The H represents a hydrogen bomb. If you didn't know that, I mean, it's just to clarify. So we should, going over this period in history, we should know that, this was during the Cold War, and this is when they were stockpiling nuclear weapons, and the hydrogen bomb was at the top of the list. So yeah, both of these benches are bombs, and the bombs are represented by hydrogen bombs, like I said, and we can tell this by looking at the H on each of the bombs. Step five, analogies. So oftentimes the cartoonist will compare two unlike things that actually carry a similar meaning. So here we see that both men are interlocked intensely in a battle of arm wrestle. And so it's simple enough, you can identify that. But if you know what's going on during this period, it's kind of the Soviet Union versus the United States, and more so democracy versus communism. And this is a struggle. This arm wrestling, it can be more than just an arm wrestling. It's represented by the struggle between the two and the war that they've waged upon each other, trying to prove that one is better than the other. So that is what this arm wrestling in this picture is representing. Step six, irony. So when you look at a certain cartoon, see if you can identify any irony. So irony is the expression of one's meaning by using language that normally signifies the opposite. So when you look at the image, look for something that might stand out or be emphasized. And once again, we're going to talk about a little bit about the bombs and how, like I said, they should be benches. So the bombs here, they represent a lot. So they go over multiple steps, but the bombs, they should be benches, but they represent benches. It should be benches there, but what they're sitting on is bombs. So it's ironic that both men have the detonator to each other's bomb, and this is only just showing how intense this standoff was, this Cuban Missile Crisis was, and I think with this image, it's accurately showing the intensity and the overall scare that both men had. That neither of them wanted to push that button. Their fingers hovering above it, but neither of them wanted to push the button. So step 7, opinions and persuasion. So this comes from the illustrator of the cartoon. So the cartoonist oftentimes chooses a side, and you can see this by maybe they are humiliating one person more than the other, or something's more emphasized on one than the other. So you kind of really just have to look and see. And if there's two people like this, you have to compare the two. So in this image, we can see Mr. Khrushchev. He's again, we're going to talk about his sweating and how much he's sweating versus how much John F. Kennedy is sweating. He only has one sweat drop right there, while Khrushchev is giving off like 6 or 7. And so you can tell that this was most likely an American cartoonist, and obviously he's siding with the Americans. But if you look at the image as a whole, the fact that they're both sitting on bombs and they're about to set each other's off. Maybe this cartoonist is his opinion is maybe that overall this whole situation is stupid. How we're competing with each other to create all these atomic weapons, and it's stupid because one wrong move and everything can go kaput. So maybe that could be an indicator of the author's view on this whole situation, not just between the two men, but the whole situation overall. And here are the sources, and that will be it.